Hello, and welcome to Crime Corner with me, Raina K, where I sit in my corner and talk all true crime everything. And to anyone joining for the first time, I want to say hi and welcome to my channel. I want to thank you all for being here and coming to listen to another case with me. Today's case is another heinous and unsolved case, unfortunately, that has been cold now for over 50 years. And it's a shorter one because there really isn't much out there about this case. But this case does have some disturbing details that I will be discussing. So if you are easily triggered and disturbed, then I suggest you skip this video. There were 6 family members traveling to San Angelo, Texas from Mexico. They were savagely beaten, shot, and stabbed and left to DIE on the side of Highway 277. And I'm hoping that by making this video, we can get some more eyes on this case and get it out there to be talked about again, because this family deserves justice. And again, I will be using phrases and words like unaliving and spelling stuff out and anything pertaining to assault will be referred to as SA, because we all know that YouTube flags videos that discuss these topics. So with all of that being said, let's talk about it. The Arrellano family consisted of 6 people. The father, Manuel, who was 29, his wife, Monica, who was 24, and their 3 children, Manuel Jr., who was 5, Leticia, who was age 2, and Eduardo, who was 1. And also traveling along with them was Manuel Sr.'s sister, Rosa, who was 21. The family was traveling to San Angelo, Texas, and they were coming from Villa del Puente, which is just inside the Mexican border, south of Piedras Negras, on April 16, 1968. The Arrellano family was familiar. They were familiar with the United States. They spoke fluent English, and they had been migrant farm workers in Iowa. The family had other relatives in Texas, and their car carried Texas license plate and election stickers promoting a relative who was running for sheriff in Zavala County. They were heading to San Angelo, Texas to visit with a family member because that family member had just given birth, and they wanted to meet the new baby that was in their family. But unfortunately, they would never make it to their destination. The Arrellano family's car broke down with a flat tire, and they did not have a spare, so they were left stranded in a rural area of Edwards County off of a remote stretch of highway of 277 between Del Rio and Sonora, Texas. It was said that a man had stopped to help the family and took Manuel Sr. and his son Manuel Jr. to the closest town, which was Sonora, Texas. And it was there that an eyewitness reported seeing the 2 in Sonora at the tire shop and local restaurant where they waited for the tire to be repaired. Then a man driving a pickup truck reportedly drove the father and son back to where their car was, and little details are known to this day as to what exactly happened after that. At some point during the breakdown, the family were savagely unalived. A ranch hand discovered the massacre that had happened overnight. The car was left abandoned, and there were bodies scattered everywhere, the police stated. The family had been shot, stabbed, and severely beaten. The ranch hand he discovered all of the carnage. It was absolutely horrible. He found Manuel Sr.'s body near a water trough inside a barbed wire fence line not far from Highway 277. His wife Monica's body was in a ditch about a mile south, and Manuel Sr.'s sister that was traveling with them, Rosa, her body was in some brush a few feet away, and it was later determined that Rosa had been SA'd. The children, Leticia and Eduardo, their bodies were located closer to their father in rocks and shrubs nearby. Those were usually occupied by goats, snakes, and armadillos. Amazingly, though, Leticia, who was shot twice between the eyes, was still alive. Then, a few feet away, the ranch hand made one last discovery, and hidden in some tall grass, they found 5-year-old Manuel Jr. in a pool of blood. Authorities later learned that he had been shot in the head and stabbed, but miraculously, he was still alive. Him and his little sister Leticia were then rushed to the nearest hospital. However, unfortunately, Leticia did not make it, and she passed away 2 days later, which is just absolutely heartbreaking. Manuel Jr. was the only survivor. He was in the hospital recovering and underwent multiple brain surgeries. And about 2 weeks later, authorities went to question him about what happened. He was able to tell authorities about a white man who he described as, quote, a big cowboy who was helping them. Then he said he unalived his father. Based on the information from a Sonora service station attendant who repaired the tire for the family, he described to the police what the man looked like. So they did a sketch of the possible subject. He was described as a tall, sandy-haired man in his 30s wearing a straw cowboy hat and driving a pickup truck. He apparently had given the family the ride 30 miles north to the service station before heading back with them to where the car was stranded. The car was found about 8 miles south of the bodies, still with a flat tire. Several people were brought in for questioning. The attendant who worked on the tire couldn't identify any of the people that were questioned as the man he saw with Manuel Sr. and Jr. No charges were filed, and the .22 caliber murder weapon was never found. Investigators weren't even certain how many suspects to hunt for, and unfortunately, by 1982, the investigation had turned cold after producing thousands and thousands of documentation with no other leads in the case. And the case had been worked to exhaustion, stated one of the investigators on the case. And that's how it stayed until 1999 when a caller he called the Texas Department of Public Safety and stated that he knew the identity of the KILLER. Detectives eventually dismissed the caller and they said he was an unreliable source, but the tip did renew interest in the case. Detective Long stated, quote, "We had to go look, start digging things up, find reports, and start piecing things together. And we came to realize that this case, it needed to be looked at again," unquote. The Texas Rangers tracked down the ranch hand who found the bodies, but he had nothing new to add. Detective Long looked for the family's Buick for 2 years, but he finally convinced himself that it may have been destroyed in a salvage yard. The lead investigator at the time, Texas Ranger, was A.Y. Ali Jr., passed away in January, but Detective Long had a sworn statement from Ali Jr. that could be used in court should they ever solve the case and go to court. The investigation has taken Detective Long all over the country and to Mexico, where he found Manuel Jr. years and years later. The boy was taken to Mexico and raised by his grandmother after his recovery. He is now about 42 years old. He's married, a father, and he's working in the financial industry. Detective Long said Manuel Jr. wasn't sure what to make of the authorities contacting him decades after he lost his entire family. And Long stated, quote, "You can only imagine what this gentleman went through, what was going through his mind, and initially he was skeptical, but I was able to meet with him in person. I think he realized we were for real," unquote. But he could provide little help even after questioning under hypnosis, and his memory of the incident was basically non-existent except for what he has been told over the years or what he has read, Long stated. Manuel Jr. did, however, lift his shirt and showed Detective Long 5 or 6 scars from the stab wounds that he suffered. And Detective Long, who is about Manuel Jr.'s age, said that the authorities had collected some physical evidence years ago, like pieces of the victim's clothing. Some were recently submitted for DNA testing that wasn't available in the late 1960s and early 70s. And they said that if they could find the person that the DNA fits, then they will probably have a person that either unalived the family or was at least present at the scene of the massacre. Detective Long believes more than one person was involved, which differs from the beliefs of his peers decades ago. Long stated, quote, "Back in 68, I think with the information they had, probably they looked at it as a hate crime, as that being the motive. SEXUAL, assault, was secondary. Thirdly, would have been theft, and I think now we put that reversed. I think you have a robbery that kind of gets out of hand and then leads to unalivings and an SA," unquote. Long said that the attacker or attackers may have committed more unalivings again, and has stated, quote, "Experience is definitely you don't do this and stop. And if it was just a one-time event in some individual's life, that's questionable how somebody rational could do something like this and just carry on with his normal routine in life," unquote. Few people in the sparsely populated area, the case, though it seems to have spawned a legend from Sonora to Mexico, Long has since said that he hopes to one day get answers to what happened in that West Texas field, and stated, quote, "If anything this case did do, it showed me the importance of how not to quit, and there's always something to follow," unquote. According to the Texas Rangers cold case investigators, they stated that, quote, "This case remains one of the most heinous unsolved mass unalivings in Texas," unquote. And that was the case of the Arrellano family. I know this one was really a hard one to hear and just very horrific and sad case, and it's terrifying and angers me to know that a monster or monsters who committed this horrible crime were never caught. And that's not okay. This family and Manuel Jr. deserve to have justice served in this case and to have this person or persons face justice for what they did. The description that the police gave of the victim's vehicle was that they were traveling in a white over blue 1958 Buick car. And I could not find any more pictures of the family other than the ones that I provided in this video. But if you or anyone you know have any information about this case, please contact Texas Crime Stoppers at 1-800-252-8477. You could be eligible for a $3,000 reward, and you can remain anonymous. I am, of course, like always, going to be linking my research down below and a link so that if you want to leave an anonymous tip online, you can click on the link and it'll take you straight there. And I ask that you please just like and share this so we can get it out in the algorithm and help spread this case to get more eyes back on this case and get it to people who've never heard of this case before. This family, again, they deserve justice. Manuel Jr. deserves to have closure for these horrific events and things that he endured. Please send prayers to him and his family, and prayers that this case is finally solved. If any updates happen in this case, I will definitely update you all. And I want to thank all of you for taking time to come hear another case with me today. And I truly appreciate you being here. And until the next one, please have a wonderful week and be safe out there.